This is the American Deist. The claim is often made that ours is a godless constitution. Those who say this know very little about the history of our republic or its political philosophy. Here are 4 simple arguments in rebuttal. The first is based on the words of the Declaration of Independence, the second on the Constitution's oath of office, the third on James Madison's defense of the Constitutional Convention, and the fourth on the central political thesis of the modern democratic republic. But first, a warning. There is a growing effort among atheists and agnostics to convince the American people that because the U.S. Constitution does not specifically mention God, our nation was meant to be totally devoid of all religious understanding. This video is an antidote to that claim. Atheism and agnosticism are spreading rapidly throughout our nation's institutions of higher learning. That means that what is presented here must live among the people if it is to survive. References are given at the end of this video that any fair-minded scholar can use to verify the following claims. First, the Constitution rests on the principles announced to the world in the Declaration of Independence. That document affirms that God, and not government, is the author of our rights. No one who reads the Declaration can fail to see this. But the Constitution was written to secure our rights. Therefore, the Constitution was written to secure the rights given to us by God. So, the Constitution is not godless. When the Declaration was written in 1776, it was celebrated throughout the world. It quickly became the most famous document of its time. Those who wrote the U.S. Constitution only a few years later, in 1787, certainly did not forget what had just been publicly announced. There was one man who worried that you and I might forget. During the convention, James Madison proposed that the elegant preamble to the Constitution be rewritten so that it would reaffirm the truths of the Declaration. The principal author of our Constitution did not want future generations to forget that the right of self-government belongs to us in nature. Roger Sherman of Connecticut, who was on the Committee of 5 that drafted the Declaration, objected. Madison's plan was unnecessary, he said, because the words "we the people" already signify the truths of the Declaration of Independence. Thus, the Constitution's preamble is our nation's link to those theological and moral principles that are known to the people through reasoned reflection on nature. The Constitution requires office holders, before public service, to swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution. An oath, by definition, invokes God. It is a promise made before God to tell the truth. That is why the current oath of office, established by President Abraham Lincoln, concludes with the words, "So help me God." How can the Constitution be godless when it requires office holders to acknowledge God? The state of South Carolina drew attention to the religious nature of the oath at its ratifying convention. In 1788, it proposed a constitutional amendment requiring that the word "other" be inserted at Article 6, where it says, "No religious test shall ever be required for public office." It would then have read, "No other religious test." South Carolina saw the oath of office as a type of religious test. But Roger Sherman again objected. He said that the absence of the word "other" was merely a clerical omission, and could be inserted without calling a convention. As it now stands, the effect will be the same. Thus, the Constitution's oath of office is a religious test that requires the office holder to acknowledge God. When Madison was pressed on the matter, he said, "Is not a religious test, as far as it is necessary or would operate, involved in the oath itself? If the person swearing believes in the Supreme Being who is invoked, and in the penal consequences of offending him, either in this or a future world, or both, he will be under the same restraint from perjury as if he had previously subscribed a test requiring this belief. Under our Constitution, those who refuse to make a direct and public appeal to God cannot enter public office. The Articles of Confederation, enacted in 1781, were far too weak to serve our nation's purposes, but changing them posed a serious challenge. They stipulated that revisions could only be made if all the states in the Union concurred. Some states had expressed their opposition to any new constitution at all, so the delegates to the convention decided that it would be ratified if only 9 states agreed. The opponents were outraged. They demanded to know who gave the delegates the authority to make this change in the ratification process. Madison, in Federalist No. 43, replied that, faced with a dysfunctional government, the delegates had merely done what the founders had. They appealed to the transcendent law of nature and of nature's God, which declares that the safety and happiness of society are the objects at which all political institutions aim, and to which all such institutions must be sacrificed. Thus our Constitution rests on a higher than human law. The Articles of Confederation were cast aside on the basis of the same self-evident truths that we the people had affirmed in the Declaration of Independence. In a republic, the laws of nature and of nature's God take precedence over every human law. The philosophy of the Republic holds that the laws of nature and of nature's God are the source of all justice under government. Our Constitution, after all, is just a piece of paper. What matters is the agreement that led to its writing. That is what gave rise to government. How did we reach that agreement? We used reason to determine what rights God has given us in nature. We then founded government to secure those rights. This is the fundamental thesis of our republic, that there is an order of moral law inscribed into nature by God that is known to the people independently of any church or state. Because the people know this law through the exercise of reason, they are capable of self-government. That is why the Declaration of Independence says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident." Certain truths about God and government are evident to the ordinary powers of the human mind. Those who argue that ours is a godless constitution want us to believe that our rights do not originate in nature. To believe that the Constitution, the Congress, or the Supreme Court is the author of our rights is to surrender to tyranny. If government gives us our rights, it can also take them away. Only rights given by God are inalienable. Ours is no godless constitution. To the contrary, it exists to protect the rights given to us by God. We have never renounced this fundamental truth of our founding. That is why we oblige all who hold office under our Constitution to swear an oath. Who is the God who is witness to that oath? He is the God who endows us with our rights. As Madison said in the Federalist, there is an order of moral law written into nature that requires the protection of our rights, especially the right of self-government. The laws of nature and of nature's God transcend all human laws. They are the true standard of justice under government. God has made that natural law evident to the power of reason so that we, the people, might govern ourselves freely under its benevolent direction. This is the central thesis of the modern democratic republic. Our conclusion? That the phrase "godless constitution" is a contradiction in terms. Anyone who denies this is either ignorant or not telling the truth.